this morning is Exodus 3, verses 1 through 12. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. He said, Here I am. And then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know of their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppressed them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you. And this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. The word of the God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
If you would, please pray with me. Gracious, loving God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you this day, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So, I've been thinking a lot about prayer, doing this series on prayer. And like I mentioned earlier, Carrie Newcomer's poem really began to shape this service for me. I think that she captures something that I also find in our scripture this morning. That there are some journeys that have to be made, body and soul. When Moses is wandering in the desert with the sheep, he sees this bush, he decides to kind of go in a different direction to see what's up, which is something probably we all do, right? We would wander off our path to see what this flame is all about. Type of journey, perhaps. When he gets to the bush and he sees that it's not being consumed, I'm sure he was quite intrigued, maybe even baffled. I caught that sense in Carrie's poem that there's something about journeying in a way that we're not used to journeying that can catch us off guard. When I think about Moses and his encounter with God, I think I would have gone in the other direction. And I'm not sure that if God called out to me, I would have answered, Here I am. I think I would have probably uttered some sort of expletive. I think I would have thought that perhaps I was going crazy, that I was seeing things. And I'm grateful that this didn't happen in the 21st century, because if Moses had ever said, Y'all are not going to believe what I just saw, they would have just locked him up. But God tells him, remove the sandals from your feet, because the place you are standing is holy ground. And that got me thinking, is this the only place that's holy? I don't think so. See, I think what God was really trying to say to Moses is, you're in my presence, and you don't even know it. And perhaps in this particular moment, as a way to show just a little bit of reverence, take your shoes off. Now, I remember growing up, whenever we would go to my granny and granddaddy's house in the middle of the country, down a dirt road with a big oak tree in front of the house that had Spanish moss dripping from it. You pull up in the backyard, there was no paved driveway. It was a dirt driveway. There wasn't a whole lot of grass right around the back where you could park. You'd come up those back steps, and the first words you would hear from my granny is, take your shoes off when you come in the house. Old wooden floors made out of harder pine. Beautiful, warm. She didn't have a vacuum cleaner. She had an old straw broom. She had to sweep the floor every day because the kids, 13 of them, would truck dirt back and forth into the house. And I think probably over the years she just got in the habit of saying, take your shoes off when you come in the house. And there was this space right by the door where you could see shoes lined up. And there was something holy about walking into this home because she made it so. She made that space sacred. And I think that the journeys that we take in our lives are the same kinds of journey that God is calling Moses to take. Journeys of liberation. But we don't often think of it that way. And like Parker Palmer talks about, we live such divided lives and we don't even know it, that our integrity is literally shattering underneath our feet. And our life journeys, our liberation is about finding wholeness. It's about figuring out how to bring it all back together, to pull our integrity back together. I don't think I ever thought of Moses as someone who really lived a divided life. But he did. If you remember the story of Moses, the reason he is living in Midian is because he killed a soldier, an Egyptian soldier, and fled. Once he got to safety, he sort of picked up his life and just kept right on going. He got married, had kids, did all the normal things that people do. And I started thinking, perhaps, maybe God was sending Moses by, not just to liberate the Egyptians who were oppressed in this place, but to liberate Moses. Because when you go back, you have to face what you did in this place. You can't just go back and pretend like nothing happened. If you think about the people that he ran into, somebody could have recognized him. But you're the one. You killed one of our own. They could have jailed him right there. But that's not what happened. Because God was with them. Or at least I'd like to believe that God walked Moses right back into that place. And that through Moses' actions to liberate the Egyptian people, he also, in that same breath, liberated himself. And I think about those journeys that we take in our lives. Last week we talked about the places that we go. Where do we go to find our grounding? What are those special places that feed our soul? In every journey we take is part of that soul journey. It's part of what makes us whole. Or at least it should be. In fact, that's kind of the litmus test, isn't it? Like we have to learn at some point to say no to the things that don't feed us and say yes to the things that do. I'm really good at saying yes to too many things that really do not feed me at all. In fact, they just drain me, they deplete me. And I was thinking about this last night and having a conversation with someone about this last night, that too often when we do this, when we say yes to things that don't feed us, we're actually denying our own personhood. What we're saying is that what I need doesn't matter. I'm good at that. I'm good at putting the needs of others ahead of myself. And I was taught this, right? We were taught this as children, that we are to serve. That is our ultimate goal. Serve, serve, serve until you drop dead. And especially in the church, we want to serve. We really want to serve. But sometimes we need to learn to say no. Sometimes for our own sanity, for our own wholeness, we learn to say no. And the journey is about coming to understand what feeds us and what doesn't, what makes us whole and what doesn't. And I think Carrie really captures this in her poem when she says that air travel feels like cheating. There's something about moving too quickly through life, moving too fast. We miss the most important, juicy bits, don't we? We miss the things that shape us and mold us and ground us and allow us to build roots. The things that form our identity. I remember the first time I ever flew on an airplane. I went to California with my family to visit my Aunt Bev. You guys have heard me talk about my Aunt Bev a little bit. That was my dad's sister. Somewhere along about 1979, she decided to move to California and go back to work for the federal government. She lived in San Jose. I remember coming in on this airplane, and we're flying into San Francisco. And if you've ever flown into San Francisco, you don't really know what you're getting into, because it looks like you're going headlong into the water. It's a little bit frightening, especially if you're looking out the window and you're going, where are we going to land? It's unnerving. And then miraculously land appears and you land on land, and it's really odd. And I thought that trip was bad. The jet lag, you feel a little tired, you're losing time, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But then when I flew to Egypt, now that was a totally different experience. 14 hours on a plane. If you've ever flown 14 hours on a plane, you'll never do it again. Or at least you say you won't. It's really bizarre to me to start out in one time zone and wake up in another. And they told us when we landed in Cairo, now we don't want you to go to sleep. We want you to stay up so that you can acclimate yourself to this time zone. And we're all like red-eyed, bleary-eyed, wanting to do nothing but sleep. Because only one of us knew how to sleep on an airplane. And that's the one person who's been all over the world. The rest of us were watching movies all night long, trying to not feel the weight of being in this very uncomfortable seat. Journey. In both of those situations, I had a purpose for going. Very different purposes. As a kid, all I could really think about was, I get to see my aunt. This is really exciting. And we're going to get to do some fun things. When we went to Egypt, it's a very different kind of journey. And I think for all of us, there are spaces and places that we've gone to that just shape us in such a way that when we come back, we are not the same. And there really is no going back. You can't return to your old self because you are forever changed. And I think Parker Palmer hits that right in the head, that every time he went to this spot, it became more and more like a pilgrimage. And I think for us that that's what we're looking for really in our souls, is a pilgrimage. And if we can think about what happens to the Israelite people as they are coming out of Egypt, they are really starting on a grand pilgrimage. This isn't just going on a vacation. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. That is a pilgrimage, my friend. And all the while, I'm sure, as sure as I'm standing here, that Moses continued to hear in his mind, remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Because everywhere that God was, which is pretty much everywhere you can imagine God can be, is holy ground. We are called to see it that way, although we seldom do. I've often wondered what would happen if I walked into the church barefooted. Would it feel any different to me? As we wrap up our series on prayer, as we think about what it means to pray on our journeys, my hope for you is that your prayer life is the journey. That every step you take is a prayer. That every step you take is all about walking on holy ground. That it's about feeling yourself planted in a place, body and soul. That the journey is about getting lost. It's about blundering and finding your way. And it's about recognizing that when you do, the person, the entity, the divine being that is there for you always is the God that you love and serve. Our prayer for the journey is quite simple. Lead me. Lead me. Reveal to me next steps. Mold me. Shape me. I've learned, in case you haven't learned, I've learned not to ever pray for patience. Don't do that. Not unless you want to break something. But there are plenty of other And I think that Parker Palmer really understands that part of that prayer journey is that we are walking toward wholeness. We are walking toward becoming beings of integrity. I had a dear friend years ago who said to me, if you live your life with integrity, you have nothing to fear. And I absolutely believe that today. And so it is my prayer for you this day that you will kick off your shoes and that you will find a path somewhere and that you will take that path and that you will find yourself standing on holy ground. May it be so. Amen.